tuned into SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network. This is SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
All right, grab a drink and grab a snack. Welcome to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network every Sunday night at 8 p.m. We're excited to be here and excited for you guys to be with us. We have an incredible show planned for you tonight. I want to remind you, first and foremost, to download the Chief Sports app if you have not done so already, because it's not just SEC Sunday Night. There's so much content that you're missing out on if you don't have the Chief Sports app. And so we want you to be connected. We want you to be able to interact with our partners. And speaking of partners, we are brought to you by Hewitt Damaduras Law, hdlawsc.com. Call if you need them for any personal injury, accident, dog bite, anything. You name it. These are your guys. And look, they're not the scammy guys that are on the TV commercials or on a billboard. These guys really care about you. I know them personally. They want relationships with you. And so make sure that you call them. If you can't say Damaduras, just go to hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Damaduras Law, proud sponsors of SEC Sunday Night. Craig, my man, what's going on? It's 4th of July week. We're almost there. What's happening?
Oh, it's a beautiful day. Can I just say real quick, shout out to JB or Phil, whoever made that bumper. That guitar just hits. I get the goosebumps going.
Personally requested by Craig tonight.
It was personally requested. No, we are doing well. Summer vacation has officially started. Athletic directing now is strictly email. No longer in school, so absolutely looking forward to chatting this evening. I know we've got an awesome guest coming up in David Walker. Talk a little Ole Miss, talk a little Texas A&M, but doing really well. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm once again on the road. It seems to be the story of the summer for us here on SEC Sunday Night. Last week, live from the Grand Strand. This week, a little down the coast. Just below Charleston, it's Seabrook Island. Down here at Kiowa, maybe a little more well-known, but Seabrook and Kiowa right next to each other here. And so speaking of JB, hope to catch up with him sometime this week as I'm in his neck of the woods. And it's good to be here. Little family vacation, just kind of relaxing. Last week was a bunch of friends. This week I'm fighting a little bit of a cough, but I'm just chilling, relaxing a little bit. I already hit the pool as we pulled up today. So we're just trying to keep it moving here through the summer. Keep it moving. As a reminder, we will be off next week to celebrate the 4th of July, and so we will not be here next week. And then the following week, we'll be back to talk about SEC Media Days with a special co-host, and we're going to leave that one up in the air as a little tease right now. But we are excited about SEC Media Days and everything that's going to be going on there. And so we're going to have some football discussion tonight. But, man, when we get really into July, the football discussion is just going to fly. And I think that's what we like, and that's what the guests like, and so we're excited about that too.
Yep, I do have one question since you're in Charleston. One of my favorite cities, by the way. I felt left out last week when you and Crane were talking about Myrtle, because I've not been to Myrtle. But what is your favorite restaurant? I got to get there. But what is your favorite spot in Charleston to go to for a little dinner?
Anywhere on Shem Creek is pretty good. If I can get fried oysters, then I'm good to go. So as long as we're frying oysters, I'm okay. I don't necessarily need the upscale Charleston experience. I'm game for that if that's what we want to do, but I don't really need that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm good with kind of just sports bar, pub kind of deal. If I can get some good fries and some cocktail sauce and oysters, a little shrimp, if I can get it, we're doing good. I love it. What about you? If you're asking the question, then you definitely have one. So go ahead and put your pinky up. Tell us what your favorite restaurant is.
I'm going to Hyman's Seafood. I
love Hyman's. Gotta get your sticker.
Yeah. It's one of my.
Gotta rub elbows with the rich and famous and Hyman's. That's for sure.
It is. So in a former life, I was a Civil War teacher. So like Charleston was like totally like geeking out, going over there, going to Sumter. The
Yeah.
Hunley's not far from there, by the way. If we want to just go totally off the rails, we can start talking about the Hunley. We can talk about Charleston during the
Yeah.
Civil War. So
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a little bit of a different show than what we're working with, but this is
It might be,
SEC Sunday night. So let's jump over to the news that matters. Let's talk first about your dogs because we've seen them in the news over and over again for speeding and other violations of the like. But we see some recruiting starting to pick up in Athens. You know, honestly, recruiting's picking up everywhere. Just this past week, we know that Shane Beamer is hot on the trail of a few guys. He's starting to get some commitments coming in. And this is kind of that summertime when South Carolina has been really hot. Shout out to our guy Lou covering LSU. He's had some really good takes in the past week about what Brian Kelly is doing and bringing people in that way. And so you can just kind of look around. Alabama lands a 5-star running back this week, and so recruiting is heating up. But is it as fast as it is in Athens?
no,
I don't know. What's you, Mr. McMichael?
So last week at this time, Georgia was sitting at about number 6 and number 7 in the recruiting class. And if we've known anything about Kirby Smart, it's top 3 or bust. Well, over the last 6 or 7 days, he's landed 6 straight recruits. He's got some really big names. He is the only one with multiple number 1 recruits in the nation. He grabbed Jared Curtis earlier this year, and then just recently he grabbed the number 1 defensive lineman in J.J. Johnson. We got Chase Calicut, a 4-star cornerback from North Shore up in Texas. Craig Dandridge, a 4-star wide receiver from Cambridge High School. Joe Lamar, a 4-star running back from Colquitt County High School. Camden Ford flipped his commitment from Vanderbilt. And then sorry Crane, sorry Hugh. We also got Shadiris Tootle, who flipped his commitment from Auburn. So
well,
Toodaloo,
Hugh. We're coming to Athens. Sounds like, wow, what a name! And is it flipping season? Is Will Muschamp back in Athens? Is that what's going on here?
Will Muschamp is back. You know,
they call him the flipper.
He's the flipper. Well, our buddy MBG earlier this week on Twitter had something about how he was a Georgia double agent at both Auburn and at South Carolina trying to help the dogs. So Muschamp does really well. Hey, look who it is. Speaking of SEC fans.
And speaking of the MBG podcast, shout out to Who's for showing up in the chat box. Let me just say for everybody who's out there, the chat box is wide open. And so if you want to jump in there and give us a question or a comment, especially when we get to talking to David here in just a few minutes, we would love for you to be a part of that. We want to talk to you and interact. So make sure that you jump in there and hit us up. So not only do we have the dogs in the news, but we also have the main passing academy. So a lot of SEC quarterbacks present there. I know who you're looking at. I know who you're most infatuated with.
Gunnar Stockton.
Absolutely not. Even though you cover Georgia, we all know that you're looking at Arch Manning. And so, you know, in the SEC world, Craig, there are more quarterbacks than Arch Manning. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, there's Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, of course. All right, because you have to cover him. Yep, got it. So if we look
South
at
Carolina commit.
Yeah, exactly. That's a Bobo commit, if we're just being honest. So wherever Bobo was is where he was going.
Another Georgia guy.
Yeah, but you know, we've talked about this before. I do think that the connection there, and JB was saying this on the show this week, and we just talked about it. But you know, you and I have said this on our show for a while. The connection between Bobo and Stockton is going to be something that I think makes a difference this year. It's going to look different from Carson Beck just because there's chemistry, and I think that you get into Bobo's feel a little more with this style of quarterback. But that's neither here nor there because we're not talking about Gunnar Stockton right now.
Yep.
The Manning Passing Academy is what's in the news, and to you, as we're kind of talking off the air, Garrett Nussmeier and Arch Manning stick out the most. I think the funny thing was the video that we shared on X, where Garrett Nussmeier says, "Hey, we're at Walmart and people stop Arch for a photo," but it's funny because we're in Louisiana. They don't know who Garrett Nussmeier is. Not only is he the quarterback of LSU, but his dad's the offensive coordinator for the Saints.
He's at Nicholls State. You know, they're not paying attention to the Tigers at Nicholls State.
They should.
They should.
But yeah, so it's kind of funny. In your opinion, I want to ask David this question too. But is your opinion that those are the top 2 quarterbacks in the league?
I think so. I think
Obviously, I would say this Lenore Sellers and Garrett Nussmeier, but because Arch has not proven himself yet, I think that he's well into the conversation. But again, I got to see it. But you tell me why. Why is it Nuss and Arch for you?
So Nuss to me, I think those receivers. We're going to talk to Lou in a couple weeks. A little spoiler alert. Lou does a great job covering LSU for Last Word, but I think LSU's probably got one of the top receiving cores in the SEC. And Nussmeier has shown that he can throw the ball. I think the biggest challenge and the biggest weakness that I saw in Garrett last year was his turnovers and not showing up in those biggest games. But he did throw for a hell of a lot of yards. He put up a lot of touchdowns. So to me, he's got that most returning experience kind of coming back. So he should be there. And to be honest with Arch, it's the last name, it's the cachet, it's everything else. Lenore's had a phenomenal year. Lenore's basically put South Carolina on their back. He did it against Clemson last year, making sure that South Carolina went to 9 wins last year. So to me, you've got the promise, the kind of known in Nussmeier, and then you've got that. I mean, let's be honest, you've got royalty. Matt, it's crazy. I was talking about this with a friend of mine today. I was not a big fan of Peyton Manning when he was in the NFL. I just thought he was kind of, I'll be honest, a dork, and I just didn't really care for him. I cared for your guy Brady, but I did like Eli. Eli had a swagger to him, and I've always liked when I've heard from Coop. But the more you honestly hear from Arch, like you got a kid who's got his head on straight. He's not the moments. I just don't feel like the moment's ever going to be too big. He's got Arch Manning there with him, kind of like helping him, guide him through. Coop's done a really good job kind of carrying him through. He went to the biggest school in Texas. He put a name for himself. He could have went to Ole Miss. That would have been the easy thing to do. He could have went to Tennessee, but that wasn't going to happen. Probably could have went to Georgia. But to me, like what Arch does is he holds that promise. And I think that's why you're going to see that Texas has probably the most balanced and probably the deepest roster, not only in the SEC, but in college football. And then, like I said, Nuss with the receivers. I mean, Arch said it best. He's expecting an SEC championship and a national championship. He was asked what success looks like. He named those two things.
I think that Arch is set up, and again, I said this on the show with JB this week, but I think Arch is set up to be as successful as he can be, right? Because he has the people around him who have put him in that position. But the analogy that I gave was, think about when you learn to drive. Whoever it was that taught you how to drive probably had years and years of experience. They've been behind the wheel of a car in lots of different situations. They had driven multiple different types of cars. They'd been in weather. They've been in lots of traffic. They've been in the situation where you're just kind of cruising and you kind of lose attention. They've adjusted the air conditioning. They've changed the radio. They've done all the things. So they give you all this advice and teach you how to do it. But there's nothing like getting behind the wheel of the car yourself. And you start off and somebody's in the passenger seat and they're like kind of barking orders at you throughout the thing. And they're guiding you to make the things, to make the right decisions and keep your hands here and speed up a little bit. And don't look directly at the line. You're going to run out of the road, and I'll adjust the radio. We don't need loud music right now and all those things. But then the day comes when you have to get behind the wheel of the car and you have to drive to school or to practice or to your friend's house or whatever by yourself.
Yep.
And nothing.
He's done that already, though.
Nothing can really prepare you. Yeah, but has he?
Yes, he has. He walked into UTSA. I'm sorry, he walked into UTSA. First pass was a touchdown, and then he went to Starkville, and he won. I'm sorry, there was in Austin, but here's the thing.
Okay, and what have you had to say about Mississippi State for the past 2 or 3 years? Are you really putting them at the level where that's testing him?
They need more cowbell. They're not testing him, but he showed up.
Okay,
listen. It could have been like Mr. Go 30 and something could have went down his leg, but he still showed up.
We're going to find out in week 1 in the shoe what happens with Arch Manning. And I'm right there with you. But again, I need to see it. All right, it's time for our first break. We're going to jump out of here. And when we come back, we'll be on the Trifecta guest line with David Walker. First, let me remind you, Hewitt Diamonduras Law is here for you and any personal injury that you may have. You want to talk to them. In fact, you know what? You might just want to call them just to have a conversation, because you never know what's going to happen, and everything in this life is relationships. And so just go ahead and establish it. They're great guys to talk to, and I would encourage you to do that. hdlawsc.com. We'll be right back after this break on the Traffic Guest Line with David Walker.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
Oh man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
Yo, what's up?
Baby, let's go!
This is SEC, Sunday night on the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome back to SEC Sunday night on the Chief Sports Network. Again, I'm Ron Williams, and he is Craig McMichael. And now we are joined by David Walker on the TriFit Performance guest line. I'll remind you that TriFit is here if you need any performance enhancement. If there's any way that you have an injury and you're an athlete trying to recover, maybe you're a runner, maybe you're just trying to stay in shape as you get older and you have something that you need to work on. It's physical therapy, cash-based, and it is another level of physical therapy. And so we want to shout out TriFit. If you need anything, go to trifitperformance.com. David, thank you for joining us so much. We're excited to talk with you tonight. How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. It's been a day, and got a little heat over here in Texas, as we should right now. But we've got a lot of cats around, so you may hear some meowing every now and then. And we're doing well. My dogs are waiting for me to go walk right now, so everything is really good at the Walker household. Evie has just left. Evie helped me set up the computer because I know little about it, and we've been looking forward to this now for a couple of weeks. And
that's awesome.
I just want to say about Evelyn. Evelyn Van Pelt is just a wonderful publisher. Nobody really knows this, but she was the first woman in the country to start her own school-specific sports website. And she's really done a great job. I think this is going to be her 13th season at Ole Miss. She loves Ole Miss and everything about it, and just works her tail off. And it's just a pleasure to watch her go. The reference to Morgan Freeman, I drive Ole Miss Evie. He drove Miss Daisy. I drive Ole Miss Evie. So we're just having a blast right now, and things are really hopping over at Ole Miss in Oxford.
That is awesome. No, that's really cool, and we appreciate you coming on. And we want to say a good buddy of yours, Tony Saragusa, our boss, and we're at Last Word, says hello. He was excited to see that you were coming on today. So
yeah, I saw that on Twitter today, and I love Tony. I love his work. I love to watch him work and read his stuff. Just a super individual, really cool guy.
He was responsible for bringing the two of us together with Last Word.
That's actually true. That's true.
Yeah,
If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here. That's right. Hey,
Well, I guarantee you, some people have an eye for talent, and Tony is certainly one of those, isn't he?
Yeah, or he had some grace with us, one of the
yeah,
two.
I don't know that we're giving us that much credit, David, but we'll see how it pans out. Hey, we're looking forward to talking with you about a couple different things tonight, and we'll look forward to getting Evie on at some point too, because as we get into the season, we know that the Rebels are going to definitely make a splash. You let us know though, for you as the Texas A&M quarterback, what is your life in sports look like from that point until now? Because not only did you play at one SEC school, but you're involved in covering and writing for the Rebels as well. And so talk to us a little bit, just give us the overview, hit the highlights a little bit, if you will, of what that looks like. And when those two teams match up, what colors are you putting on?
Hey, that's a really good question. First of all, though, I was born in Louisiana. I was raised in Sulphur, which is just outside Lake Charles, South Louisiana. Big presence, big Tiger country. And I was the outstanding player in the state as a senior, as a 16-year-old senior, signed with LSU, signed with the SEC. We had a quarterback at LSU leaving. He was a senior, and he was a Heisman Trophy candidate. He was in New York, Burt Jones. And just a tremendous tradition in Sulphur. We had an outstanding coach, Shannon Suarez, who was from Biloxi, Mississippi, and moved over to Sulphur when he came looking for a Bridge City head coaching job in Texas. He stopped off in Sulphur and met the head coach, and the coach had an offensive line job open for him, and he said, well, I think I'll take it. And in 1965, beat Burt Jones, Woodlawn and Shreveport in the state final. Came back in 68, beat Burt Jones of Ruston, the Ruston Rifle, in the semifinals, but lost to Joe Ferguson. And Joe Ferguson played many years in the pros for Buffalo and was a great quarterback at Arkansas. And he was a great quarterback in high school. And so didn't win in 68, but just a great tradition. He's the winningest coach at Sulphur High history, and I was very fortunate to play for him. We had a wide open offense. We had one back. We ran trips. We did everything that they do now except for the shotgun. And after signing with LSU, I got a call from A&M, and A&M wanted me to come look at the place. I met some people that I was really impressed with. A&M hadn't won anything in, 15 of the previous 16 years, I think. I mean, that had losing seasons. Their last winning season, I think, was in 1968. And here I'm looking at 1973. And I guess one of the claims to fame that I would have is that 1973 was the last back-to-back losing season that A&M has had ever since. And that's covering a little over 50 years. Not that there wasn't a scare a few years ago with Jimbo. And but at least A&M has won consistently since those mid-70s teams. And we went all the way up to number 2. We were number 5 a couple of times during the season. And I played, I gave up my throwing to go play for A&M and for Emory Bellard. And Emory Bellard, of course, invented the wishbone offense and added the triple option to it. And I didn't know any of this stuff whenever I went to A&M. I was a drop back, sprint out passer. We ran zero option at Sulphur. So that was tough. Injuries were tough. The entire situation of learning to run the triple option against football teams that were so fast and so quick. I played with the very first black football players who ever went to the NFL from A&M. And that was the transition that was going on. My second year, freshmen were just now becoming eligible. In my first year there, they became eligible in 72. I went in 73. I went there to start as a freshman. And I was the first quarterback to earn Freshman of the Year honors in the country in football. And so that was pretty cool too. But then learning the triple option and doing all that kind of stuff, we won 36 games over 4 years. We turned the program around, and like I said earlier, we had just some great football teams. We had the first black player to ever become All-Pro in defensive back Pat Thomas. We had the first black player to ever become the NFL Defensive Player of the Year in Lester Hayes, who was in my class. We had the first black player ever drafted into the NFL, who came in with me in 1973 from the junior college draft, named Tim Gray. So, I mean, we had great players, but it was traumatic in many cases because, you just get so close to that championship and don't finish it. And that happened to us in Arkansas in 1975 when they decided to redshirt me for that year, and after an injury that I had in 74. And I don't know, really good teams and great teammates. And I can't compare it to today. We threw 2 passes a quarter, whether we needed to or not. That was just the way the world was.
Well, you held on to a few of those quarterback rushing records for quite a few years, so you might not have needed to throw a pass a quarter.
If Johnny doesn't come along, I still hold at least one. I had 182 yards on 27 carries in one game against SMU. We were behind in that game 21-7 at halftime and came back and beat them through a few passes, through a few touchdown passes in that one. But I thought that record would stand forever, because everybody's gone to the passing game now.
Nick Saban was hoping for it to stand too.
And it was in a bowl game when Johnny broke the record. I'm watching the bowl game, and I'm saying at halftime, well, he's got 140 yards. I think I'm sunk here. And really big game over Oklahoma that A&M won. And we still hold. Tommy Kramer and I, we squared off in 1976, and Tommy Kramer was the All-American quarterback that year from out of Rice. And he threw the ball 60 times against the number 2 defense in the country. We did not sack him. We did not intercept him. And ended up being a 57-34 ball game, the highest score in Southwest Conference history. So, and whatever we ran for that game is still the Kyle Field record. So awesome. That one should stand up through the rest of it. So had a lot of really good players, all Americans, Ed Simbonetti, Pat Thomas, Lester Hayes, Robert Jackson, middle linebacker. The list goes on. We just had talent just out of the woodwork, and it was just never been around people like that. We had 17 players drafted over a 2-year period, which I think is still the A&M record. That's just how good we were. So that was a lot of
A&M always has a lot of talent, right? That seems to be the case. You said
they didn't when Gene Stallings was there. After Bear Bryant left in 1957, it went way, way down. In fact, Gene Stallings had 9 straight road losses before he got let go, and topped only by Jimbo Fisher's 10 straight road losses.
Can we still say that name in College Station, or is that
okay? Yeah, let's not do that. What about Mike Elko though? Because we have differing opinions on the show here about Mike Elko. So you walk us through a little. What are your thoughts so far? I won't tell you which one of us lands on which side of the coin until after you give us your thoughts, David. But what is the hope in College Station right now with a guy like Elko and coming off of a year like last year? Do you feel like Marcel Reed is a guy that comes in and plays well again at the quarterback position this year?
Well, Marcel came in against LSU and really did a great job. I mean, I remember Kirk Herbstreit commenting quite a bit on him as a high school player in Tennessee and what he saw there, and he certainly exposed LSU's defense and made a name for himself. Now, the rest of the season may not have gone so well. The Texas game wasn't anything to write home about, but I think A&M had been worried about that one since the start of the season. Well, actually, for 2 years since they made the announcement that Texas was coming into the conference, which caught the A&M athletic director completely off guard when he was at the SEC media days. They're supposed to be very strong this year. I was looking at the odds a minute ago, and I see where Ole Miss is number 11 in the Vegas rankings, which is what I look at this time of the year, and A&M sitting there at number 12. They don't play each other. So, that's
you don't have to choose this year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And didn't have to choose last year. The last time I remember them coming to Kyle Field, they won.
Mhm.
And I don't think anybody. Here's the thing about Kyle Field is it's just such a great atmosphere for players. The band is so good playing the military music, and I think everybody just gets caught up into the macho stuff that's going on. I mean, it really is a great place to come play a football game. When I was even back in 1977, my last year there, Lou Holtz had taken over the job at Arkansas, and he was flying in, told his team, we're going to the greatest place in America to play a football game. And we only had A&M only had a 48,000 seat stadium at the time, but they would cram 55,000 people in there. And you got to remember, I mean, none of these games were on TV. I mean, if you weren't there or out, dove hunting and listening to your radio, you really didn't know what was going on until you read the paper the next morning. There was nothing on. I mean, you had Archie Griffin and Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett and Capoletti and those guys during my era playing, and they weren't even getting on TV.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah,
How different it is at this point?
Ohio State, Earl Campbell was on twice his senior year.
Yeah.
And one of those was against Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl when they went in number 1 and got beat by Joe Montana. And Notre Dame ended up winning the national championship after that game. There was just no TV. I mean, it was just incredible. I didn't.
Now we complain about having to stream, right? And like when we can get on our phones, no matter where we're at. We're complaining.
Games at once. I want a quad box. I want 4 games at once.
It's not the right game. All right, I have a quick question for you and Miss Evie about the Rebs. Maybe you're gonna have to drive Miss Evie to Atlanta. They can play.
And shout out to the Rebel Walk who is showing up in our chat box over here, reposting the stream. Love that.
Yep.
Well, that's cool. She's just done such a wonderful job, and she has such wonderful people working with her and for her. And if you saw this woman work, if you saw her just get after it, she's fretting right now because her computer's down, and she can't get on it and announce that Ole Miss has just picked up another transfer commit, and in baseball. So she's just fired up all the time. It's just
got the Murray State kid, right?
You mentioned earlier, what the transition has been from playing ball till now, and I'd have to say that she has been the biggest transition that I probably made. I coached for a decade. I was a Cadillac sales manager for a decade, and then we started riding, and she decided to, like I said, open up the Rebel Walk, and knew just a whiz at websites. And called him up and said, I'm ready to get going. And she did. And it's just been nonstop. Now, you imagine being the first woman in the country to walk into an all-male press box for a football game. And nobody knows you from Adam, except you're a competitor. I mean, that's about all they know. Nobody talks to her. Nobody looks at her. Nobody gives her the time of day. And it's totally different now. Totally different.
That's fantastic. So I guess here's my big question about like Ole Miss, right? You talked about they just got a big transfer in baseball. Lane has done an excellent job of leveraging NIL in the transfer portal to take Ole Miss to a spot that they really haven't been to in probably 50 plus years. And he's done well. He's got the 9-10 win seasons going. Do you see, like, with the House settlement coming through, does that stifle what Lane's doing, or do you think, given his reputation, he's because he's very businesslike about it. He's very, feel like he's very transparent. Does that stifle him, or does he could just continue to innovate there with what he's got going on there in Oxford?
Well, Evelyn asked him a question a couple of years ago in Atlanta at SEC days, and her question was, excuse me, in the locker room, is there any friction between players, say with an offensive lineman and a quarterback, when the quarterback maybe bringing in 4 or 5 times what that offensive lineman is. And Lane said, well, you know what? He said, you just got to approach it like NFL mindset. And you tell them, you agreed to this. This is what you're going to get paid. There's no more negotiations. And there's no reason to be angry at somebody else because they've agreed to something different. So I think that kind of nailed where we are right now in terms of, locker room politics, locker room jealousies, locker room this and that.
Yeah.
And maybe what this would do is maybe even things out a little bit to where right now I don't know what the top quarterbacks are paid. If you talk to the people at Texas now, they're going to tell you that Arch came in and didn't get a dime, wasn't promised NIL, nothing.
Right.
And you remember Jimbo, talking about Nick Saban, and then of course Lane had to jump in there with it when they were talking about who was paying who what. I think the $30 million deal got thrown around by Nick Saban a little bit. Jimbo said, we're not paying anybody. Well, okay. It's just a different world. I remember whenever I played, guy talking about history, but we got laundry money of $13 a month. We had barrack style where it was just a community shower and community bathrooms, and it was just totally different. And we had, like I said, a small stadium. We had one hot tub. Now it's just phenomenal, the facilities that all these guys have at their disposal. It's just great. The weight rooms, we used a student weight room whenever we were there, and nothing was very organized. And now we won 36 games over 4 years, which is pretty good. And now I say we won all those games with one hot tub. That's all we had to work with. And so,
wait, you didn't have like the barber shop, and you didn't have like the lazy river and everything like that?
I didn't have any of that stuff. We didn't, and they did build an athletic dorm my second year there. That was quite nice, but we still didn't have a training room, as far as that's concerned. We had a place big enough where everybody could get taped, in shifts and stuff like that. The weight room I've already mentioned. It was just, it was tough. It was hard-nosed. It was militaristic. I mean, in a lot of ways. But I was used to that when I came there from Sulphur because I played for a former Marine, and so it was actually a lot easier at A&M than it was at Sulphur. But now with the House bill and everything settled up, I think everybody's got to delve into it, find out what it means. I think there is, that's a lot of money to be looking at that has to go to certain places, to certain programs. And I was contacted quite soon after everybody started talking about NIL. And they wanted to talk to me about analyzing players, being one of those guys. And I think what is missed a lot of times is Bonnie Kiffin at Ole Miss. I mean, that's what he did. He looked at the players and decided, okay, who can help us and who can't, who's worth going after and who's not. And last year's team, the 2024 team, was really the last team that he had a hand in every one of those transfers that came into Ole Miss.
Did you see that Texas Tech piece this week in Yahoo Sports Illustrated this week talked about how Texas Tech had a whole arm, and basically what they did during the season is they looked at all of college football and said, who might be in the portal? Who are the candidates?
Yeah.
They had all of their evaluations done, and like they were like locked and loaded. I mean, that was a brilliant story. But it very much talks about like that's the key in this portal era and the NIL era.
Director of player personnel. We've heard the same things from the director of player personnel at South Carolina in that they're evaluating. I mean, once the portal opens, all these places, the coaches know who they're going after. It's just if a guy is going to get in, then we're going to be ready for that. I think that the thing for me, David, when I look at Ole Miss this year, is with Lane, you're always going to have a quarterback. But this year you have a little bit of an unknown in Austin Simmons. Is from your perspective, what does he bring to the table? I mean, for me, at 19 years old and he's in a master's program and he's playing for Lane Kiffin, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got to be able to process, because that's such a big piece of playing quarterback. But you were a highly successful college quarterback, and so you can speak to it better than we can. Is there something that sticks out to you about Simmons, or should we expect? Is this a year where maybe Ole Miss isn't as
proficient,
as challenging as they've been in years? Yeah, I mean, I don't see the drop off personally.
The Georgia Raiders,
but I'm just curious to get your take on it.
Yeah, the Georgia Raiders saw everything he needed from Austin Simmons when he came in from Dart last year in Oxford. So yeah. I'm just saying.
I tell you, when Austin
came
in, we were a little concerned when Jackson Dart went out against Georgia, because it happened so early in the game, and Georgia was already had a 7-0 lead, and it looked like they were going to expound a little bit on what they'd done the year before, and Lane Kiffin called him over and said, "Listen, we're not changing anything for you. You're going to go out there and you're going to run the offense. You're going to run the same plays that Jackson would be running, and just get out there and get after it." And that's exactly what he did. We've had riders out there the last 2 years, going now into Austin Simmons' third year, and they've always said he throws the best ball out there. And Jackson Dart says he throws the best ball out here. I mean, he puts some spin on the ball, and he's a tall kid. He got a very high release, and as Jackson Dart did, as I did. I mean, I think that was key. That's one of the keys to passing. Stabler could sidearm it and get away with it, and a few others like that, Billy Kilmer, but man, I am dating myself now. But and Archie could underhand that thing if he needed to. But Austin Simmons, I mean, he's going to be the real deal. I mean, listen, Jackson Dart completed 30 consecutive passes last year against football teams, against college football teams before Ole Miss hit conference play. And I don't care who you're playing. I mean, if you hit 30 consecutive passes and come within, I think, 2 of the all-time NCAA record, which was set, I think, by a guy from Western Kentucky, G5 level, that's some pretty good execution. And that's all you're looking for, is just really good execution in the passing game. I think they do need to improve their running game. We, didn't have a really strong running game last year, which isn't like one of Lane Kiffin's teams at all. Even Jackson didn't run the football as often as he did the previous 2 years. And Austin can take it down and run it. And the thing about Austin Simmons that I like, mentioning my days as a quarterback, and you got to be the leader. You lead them good or lead them bad, but you got to lead them. And that guy has it all. He's got the intellect. He's got the offensive system down to a T. This will be the 3rd year under the same offensive coordinator, 3rd year under the same head coach. Has a lot of pieces around him that he's going to be able to use, that they're going to be able to use. And, if they can play some defense, if Pete Golding, gets his defense back out there like he had last year, and the offense with the running game, and Austin puts it all together, they're going to be really strong. They can go. I mean, they could win 12, but they could also win 6.
No, they're not going to win 6. Just watch out week 1 against Georgia State. That's my alma mater.
I've got them. I've actually got them in the SEC championship game at 11 wins, but we'll see. We'll see where it ends up. We'll trust your take on Austin Simmons. I think that I fully agree. I want to say thank you.
I got to say this too, Rob. He's left-handed like I was.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going with the southpaw here. I think we'll have another Steve Young, or somebody like that coming up. But the guy is incredible, and he's got such a wonderful personality. Wonderful personality. When he's one-on-one with his players and his teammates, I mean, he runs the show, lights up the room, tells everybody how it's going to be. He'll tell you.
Well, that's what leading looks like, right? And you said that, and I think that that's the biggest thing is that he can get in there and lead those guys. Because if you put a talent in Lane Kiffin's system and you have a leader, then you're going to put it all together. David, we told you probably 20 minutes. We kept you 30. I appreciate you coming in. Listen, I could sit here and listen to you tell stories all night, and we could go back in history. So we look forward to bringing you back, and as we work over summer, you go get those dogs on a walk and tell Miss Evie hello for us. And
I want to apologize for not getting to my new divisions, because the new divisions, if they would only do that, if they would reseed all the conferences every year or two,
we're getting there,
and make divisions based on where they finished the previous year or two, that would be so much fun. So much fun. But anyway, yes, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for having me. This will be a topic for another day, maybe.
That sounds great, David. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks again for coming in. That was a Tri-Fit Performance guest line. That is David Walker. Thanks again. We are going to jump to our final break, and we'll be back in just a minute. Let me remind you, Tri-Fit Performance is here for you in any way that you need when you are looking for performance or physical therapy. Right there in Lexington, South Carolina. TriFitPerformance.com. This is SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network. We'll be right back after this break.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawse.com. hdlawse.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team. This is SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome to SEC Sunday Night live every Sunday at 8 p.m. on the Chief Sports Network. Make sure you download the Chief Sports app. First of all, let me just jump over there to the chat box. See Griffin asking about PJ Dean's recruitment. It is going to come down to Georgia and South Carolina for sure. And there are mixed reports. And so if I had to lean one way right now, I'm leaning towards Georgia. But to be completely honest, we've heard very positive things out of both camps. And so I don't know that I wouldn't bet a whole lot of money on it, but if I'm putting something on it right now, I'm going towards Georgia. He has a high
coming down the track.
Yeah. Okay. See now, Griffin, you had to ask this question.
I'm just wondering who's that coming down.
Gamecocks and Dogs hosting the show. All right, we'll see.
Sorry,
we'll
Griffin.
See what
Don't leave. Don't leave.
We'll see what happens. We got a day. Beamer can close. Okay. Speaking of Georgia, let's go into speed mode for this final segment, our last word, as we talk about schedules. David kind of mentioned this, but Craig, you had an article this week talking about the potential of creating these new pods in the SEC, handling the non-conference schedule. So let's start with the non-con, okay? Let's start with what the non-conference looks like and then work our way into the pods. You kind of drive us as we work our way through potential scheduling changes in the eyes of Mr. McMichael.
Yep. So as David pointed out, he was talking about, hey, let's start to rethink about divisions. Let's start rethinking pods. But at the end of the day, we're looking at a college football playoff expanding from 5 to 11. And one of the most difficult things that we have is, how do we evaluate teams that only play 12 games? Unlike college basketball that plays 30 some odd games, college baseball plays anywhere between 50 and 60 games. 12 games is really difficult to be able to evaluate who the best conference is. So my suggestion is, let's settle it on the field. So it comes at it a couple of different ways. And what this is going to do is going to make the regular season just as fun as what our postseason and college football playoff is. So the first and foremost is, I'm blowing up the entire schedule, not only for the SEC, but for everybody in the country. And I'm going to focus on Georgia for this example. In the non-conference, you are going to have 3 games that are going to be locked in. The top 4 seeds, so we're going to go to a 5+11 playoff model, so conference champions win. So whichever 4 conferences were ranked the highest, so in 2024, the Big Ten was number 1 with Oregon. Number 2 was Georgia in the SEC. 3rd was SMU in the ACC. And then 4 was the Mountain West with Boise State. Sorry, Big 12 and Arizona State, you just missed the boat. But what that's going to do, that's going to set up a non-conference schedule where those 3 conferences are going to play each other. Because what this is going to do when we play each other like this, it's going to give valuable data points. If the SEC goes 10-6 in these non-conference games against the Big Ten, then now we have not only qualitative data that says that the SEC is better than the Big Ten, which we already know, but more importantly, we have quantitative data. We have those quality wins that are going to show that effort. So
yeah, take that word, Manuel. More data points.
Yes, more data points, but more data points tangible on the field. And let's be honest, if you look at Georgia, they're going to be playing Penn State. They're going to be playing, they're going to be playing Penn State. They'll be playing Clemson. I'm all for that. Where do I sign up? And then they're playing UNLV in the Mountain West. Seriously, Big 12, get your stuff together. I don't want to be playing the Mountain West.
Hey, no, that's Dan Mullen.
Okay, so it's another win. Because we know they don't recruit.
Okay, pod 1.
All right, so then
I like the idea. I like this idea, by the way. Continue.
Yep. So then what we're going to do is we're going to break up the SEC into 4 pods, and we're going to snake draft this.
This is atrocious, by the way.
Yeah, we're going to set everybody 1 through 8. Or I'm sorry, 1 to 16, and we're going to create 4 pods. So pod 1, we have Texas, which was 1, South Carolina, that was 8, Texas A&M was 9, and then Rob's favorite, Mississippi State, was number 16. Fantastic pod. That's going to be pod 1. They will play pod number 4, which is Lucas. 4.
Keep going.
There we go. Now this is an interesting pod. Missouri was 4, Ole Miss was 5, Vanderbilt somewhere at the bottom there, and then Oklahoma. This to me is interesting, and what this does with these pods is we're going to play a 7 conference games. You're going to play everybody in your 1 pod, and then you're going to have a crossover against the other pod. Let's look at pod 2 and 3. Pod 2, this is probably my favorite pod. Georgia, LSU, Florida, and Kentucky. Poor Mark Stoops. But I would take.
It sucks for them. He's going to be really loving that max schedule with his pod. That's crazy.
He's not going to have a max schedule because he's going to have to play.
Oh, true. Can't do that.
He can't do it anymore.
And he's going to have Louisville still. So continue.
Yep. Pod 3. This one's interesting. Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, and Auburn.
I love this one.
This one's great.
I love this one.
But what I love about it is you're having the results on the field. But if you look at Georgia, you're playing Tennessee, which you love. You're playing LSU, which we don't play enough of. We're playing Florida, which is great. You're playing Kentucky, which is always a win. You're playing Alabama, which scares the hell out of you. You're playing Arkansas, and you can finally beat the hell out of them, and maybe Pittman comes back home. And then you're playing the Deep South's oldest rivalry against Auburn. To me, who isn't taking this schedule? What this does is when we take a look at this, this is now going to give us the important data points, because what it's going to do, it's going to rank our 16 teams 1 to 4, And then week 8, which would be the final week of the regular season, the number 1 team in the conference would play the number 4 team. Number 2 would play number 3. They would go, then the winners of those would go on to play in the SEC championship. Now, to make sure it really matters, 5, 6, 7, 8 would also be playing against each other, providing additional data points, Ward Manual, playing against strong teams, trying to get those at-large spots. So I've got this whole thing kind of written down. I used Diego Pavio's quotes from one of the podcasts he was on last week, which had a lot of fun and a lot of poking at my Big Ten friends. But at the end of the day, what this is going to do, it's going to create a really exciting regular season. But more importantly, the regular season will not lose value. That's one of the biggest things that we've heard with the playoff expanding to 16 teams. Oh, the playoff, the regular season is just not going to matter. Well, now all of these results are going to come together to start feeding into each other. And again, we look at it, there's some really strong matchups. So if you go and take a look at the article, we'll post it in the link, and I'll post it on YouTube here. But I think it's pretty good. And my friend, I'd love to hear your thoughts because I shared them with you when it got posted yesterday.
Well, I think that for me, these are fun ideas, right? And that's what it is. It's summer discussion. We're talking about schedules. The real news right now is recruiting, as you can see that discussion still going on in the chat box over there about who schools are going to grab at this point in the year, and that's how the recruiting calendar is kind of shaped up. And so, outside of recruiting, if we're talking about college football, we have to start talking about some of these ideas, right? Because we're past list season. Can we agree? Yep. Can we agree that we're past list season?
We might get a couple. We might get a couple lists when we get to July.
I don't know. I'm kind of over the list at this point in the year. So this is a great idea. My take is that I need to look at the barriers that stand in the way of this actually happening. Because it's fun to have these discussions, and it's actually encouraging to look at something and say, you know what, this would really work, and this would create positive data points, and this would create more drive for the league, and it would create more matchups overall across conferences. Mm-hmm. But then there are the things that stand in the way, from networks and marketing specifically, from a monetary standpoint. Those tend to be the things that stop common sense from happening in the world of college football a lot of times. And so,
but where does the marketing fall flat? You know where this doesn't work? You think Brett Yormark's going to sign off on this?
No,
not at all. You think Jim Phillips is going to sign off on this if they don't make it?
Who cares?
No, obviously not the ACC people.
Yeah, exactly. They don't even like him.
But I guess my whole thing is, like, it gives there's no days off.
If you're the SEC, why do this instead of a Big Ten SEC challenge? I'm not saying the pod thing necessarily. I'm just saying if we go back and throw up the non-conference.
Yep. The non-conference.
There we go. There it goes. If we throw back up the non-conference, what is that? What's the difference between
quantitative and qualitative data, my friend?
Quantitative
data. Here are the results on the field. Here's why the SEC was bigger than the Big Ten. What do we talk about? Bull records all the time. Well, then bull records don't matter. Well, here we go. We got regular season records. So that matters. Qualitative, it helps us as a podcast. It helps all the other podcasts. Andy and Ari would, I'm sure love that. The SEC network would absolutely run with this. So and again, what are the numbers going to look like? You're playing those Big Ten schools. You're playing the ACC schools already. Mountain West is kind of gimme, but I'd love to see the Big 12 in there. But what does that hurt?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree. Wholeheartedly. I think that if we could create those matchups, it would be better for fans. It would be better for views. It would be better for data points for sure. It would solve a lot of arguments.
What's it do for the middle of the SEC if you're already in that grind? That is the SEC.
And that's the argument that I've made. That's the argument that I've made to you about the 8 versus the 9. Yep. Is until we have some assurances that we can evaluate the schedule. And previously what I've said is we need assurance.
This allows you to evaluate the schedule.
Exactly.
This allows you to evaluate the schedule.
But I don't trust it if we're just putting it in the hands of people. You know what I mean? We need a metric. We need a system. We need something that evaluates it for us that can give us, because more data. Yeah, I agree. But no, not you and I, because even here we have bias, and that's what I'm afraid of.
The most unbiased person I know.
I would say that at least we watch the games, unlike the committee. Yes. All right, I can't go on that tangent. This has been a SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network. One more thing, Craig, I'd like to say is a happy 4th of July to everybody. I hope you have a safe week celebrating. Grab a dog or a Roman candle or whatever it is that you're going to do to celebrate. We hope that you are safe, but I hope that you are celebrating this wonderful country that we live in and the freedoms that we have here. Craig, do you have any plans this week? Are you a fireworks guy?
I go to fireworks. I do not believe in setting off fireworks and blowing up my house. Sorry.
Yeah, I was at a high school practice earlier this week, and as they got out for break, coach gave a little JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul safety speech before releasing those guys. So we want to make sure everybody's safe out there. But enjoy your fireworks. I, like Craig, will be attending fireworks, but won't be shooting any myself. We're going to have a great week. We're going to celebrate. We'll be off next week as a reminder, but we will be back on the 13th ready to talk about SEC Media Days. And what a time it will be, ladies and gentlemen. I can smell the leather on the football already. It's almost time. We're going to be there soon. This has been SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network. Thanks again to David Walker. Shout out to intern Lucas producing for the first time tonight. We'll let you guys get to know him well over the next few weeks. We'll see you next time.
Go Dogs.